You're listening to the Trade Show Insights Podcast, Season 18, Episode 7. I'm your host and exhibit marketing strategist, Marlis Arnold, bringing you tools to improve your exhibit results. On today's episode, brought to you by the Exhibit Marketers Cafe, we're diving into a not so comfortable but very essential topic of what to do when a crisis unfolds in your show city. So today's topic is probably not something that anybody really wants to talk about, but it's definitely a conversation that needs to be happening more frequently within the events and trade show world. So I want to introduce our guest for today. Gary LaBranche has been Chief Executive Officer of RIMS, the Risk Management Society, since June of 2022. RIMS serves risk management professionals who work for companies, universities, hospitals, government agencies, and associations. Their annual meeting, RISKWORLD, hosts 9,000 attendees and 300 exhibitors, and that's going to be the focus of our discussion today. Gary is a 42-year veteran of association management and has received a number of honors, including the 2007 ASAE Key Award, 2012 Association Executive of the Year, and the 2019 Association Forum Samuel Shapiro Award for CEO Excellence. He is also a member of the U.S. Chambers Association Committee of 100 and a past board chair of ASAE Business Services. Gary, welcome to Trade Show Insights.
Thank you. I appreciate being invited.
Well, like I said, today's topic is a difficult one, and it's something that you have some very firsthand perspective. I want you to kind of walk us through. When I first read about this online, I just couldn't imagine being in your shoes. So tell us what happened at RISKWORLD in Atlanta and kind of walk us through the scenario, and then we'll start breaking things down.
Great. Yes, well, we were in Atlanta at the Georgia World Congress Center. We had approximately 9,000 participants in the conference from all over the world. We were closing in on the last afternoon, May 3rd. It was a beautiful weather the whole week. Beautiful convention. City was terrific. We were very pleased with everything. We had beaten all of our numbers for exhibitors and registrants, and
Awesome.
we were smelling the finish line. We were getting ready to have our big closing finale. In fact, I had finished rehearsing the closing general session and came off the stage and was informed that there was an incident. And I needed to go go down to the response room with the team from the GWCC and police and others. So made my way down to essentially a conference room and in the administrative offices of the GWCC, and was there met by a couple of my staff members, including Stuart Ruff Lyon, our chief events and sales officer and past board chair for PCMA. He's Stuart leads the team that is responsible for all of our meetings and convention planning and execution. And gathered there also was the chief of police of the GWCC Police Department. Now, the Georgia World Congress Center is, to my knowledge, the only convention center that has its own dedicated sworn police department.
Oh, interesting.
And it's actually a state of Georgia level police department. And so they most of them are former Atlanta PD or former other law enforcement officials. They very closely coordinate with the Atlanta PD and other agencies. Keep in mind that the Georgia World Convention Congress Center is about 220 acres, and it includes
Mhm.
not only the convention center, but a nearby stadium where Taylor Swift had actually performed 3 nights in a row during our conference, which is a
Oh,
whole
wow.
other experience. The
Yeah.
Riskies and the Swifties were together in the same space for a few days. That was fun. And also in the room were the operations and other leaders from the GWCC and the Atlanta Convention and Visitors Bureau.
So you knew this was something major happening at that point.
Right. By the time I got there, I knew that there had been a shooting, and was quickly brought up to speed that, in fact, there was a shooting in Midtown Atlanta, which is roughly 2.5 miles north of where we were at the GWCC. And that was actually sort of the introduction to this thing. And, as I tell the story and as I answer questions, one of the things to keep in mind is things didn't happen necessarily sequentially. They typically happened simultaneously. So in other words, different information streams were coming in at the same time. And we were trying to figure out what's real, what's not real, what's happening,
What's the most
what's not
up-to-date
happening.
information?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And it was very, 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 very fast and changing. And the first thing we learned was there had been a shooting at some kind of medical facility. Later turned out to be a clinic, a medical clinic, that several people, it later turned out to be one person, Amy St. Pierre, was shot to death, and 4 others were wounded. There was it did not seem to be a random act. It was not just opening fire on a street or anything like that. It was apparently in response to some sort of stressful situation. So that was the first thing. And so we had to we quickly determined that we and our participants at the conference were not in any immediate imminent danger. Right, we're a couple of miles away. We're in a very secure facility. We at RIMS had great faith in the GWCC police department and the security systems that were in place. And we had, can come back to that. We had spent a lot of time getting to know them and understanding their systems. So the next question was, okay, what's happening now? And what was happening then was a shooting had occurred. The police were surrounding the area, creating a security perimeter in the hopes of catching the shooter, apprehending the shooter, or somehow otherwise taking down the shooter. And of course, right then is a bit of a challenge, because as information comes in, as police respond, it's not necessarily clear where the perimeter is. So and we're getting information. We're listening to the police reports, helicopter surveillance, tips, and whatnot. And then you start to get various pieces of information. There were additional shots fired several blocks away. That turned out to not be true. Then we hear, well, the shooter got away and he got onto MARTA, the public transportation system, and is in fact headed to the convention center. That turned out not to be true. So all these things are sort of happening. Now, meanwhile, of course, the world is discovering this. Twitter is erupting. The local television.
Well, CNN is just around the corner.
And it literally goes live on CNN. Literally goes live on CNN, and local reporting, and people then start to respond to that, and texting me, reaching out to me, and others. So we had to very quickly get in touch with our staff, and we eventually sent an app, a communication through our app, their convention app, saying, we're aware of the situation. Stay, if you're in the convention center, stay in the convention center. If you're in one of the hotels, stay in the hotel. So then the next thing is, what's happening? Second is, are we in any imminent danger? No. Third is, well, how in any way is this, could this impact us? And that's where we started to understand that it did in fact actually impact us. RIMS had 32 hotels in its hotel block. Yeah.
Wow.
And we had 8 shuttle bus routes. And so
and they're spread out all over.
Well, yeah, spread out all over. And looking at the big digital map that was in the room, we finally could determine where more or less the perimeter, the security perimeter was, and what that meant. And what that meant was you couldn't go in or out of this perimeter, and 4 of the hotels were within that perimeter. And
Oh,
then
whoa.
2 of the shuttle bus routes were also impacted or going through that
Crossing those
perimeter.
lines, yeah.
So one, first is 4 hotels are nearby. Second, 2 of the 8 shuttle bus routes are closed down. So
Wow.
we had to communicate that information out to everyone. Now, one of the things, it sounds easy that, but so issuing an announcement or an alert on an app sounds easy. The challenge was that only about half of the 9,000 participants had downloaded the app,
Of
right?
course, yeah.
So, of course, and we later learned not everybody, well, some, I would say, shut off their notifications, right?
Oh,
So,
yeah, so they have the app, but they don't have the push notifications turned off, so
right. So they shut off the
yeah.
notification, or they shut their phone off entirely because
Oh,
they're in
well, yeah.
meetings and or they've muted them or something. So then we're like, oh, what else could we do? We then issued an email through our marketing system, our automated marketing system, so that we could get that out quickly. And then it occurred to us there's still 7,000 people or so within the building at that time. This is the last afternoon of the show. So we actually pushed a message through the Congress Center's digital video boards, those
Okay.
boards in front of all the meeting rooms, and saying,
Mhm.
what's in each room. So we pushed out
Smart.
a message that said what was happening. And of course, at the same time, I'm trying to communicate with the board and staff and
Yeah.
bringing people starting to go up to the ballroom and to
See,
just to see each other, I guess. I don't know exactly what.
so give us a little bit of a time frame perspective here too. So you're coming up on your closing keynote. So how far out were you from the keynote when all of this started to go down?
I guess it was about an hour and a half or
Okay.
thereabouts, and so that was another aspect of this. In fact, we were about to begin the process of getting the speaker, Danica Patrick, over to the convention center, to the ballroom.
Oh, wow.
So, and as a piece of that, as we started to contemplate that, we let her know, stay in place, don't
Yeah.
come over. And then we made a decision that if the person wasn't apprehended within the next 10 or 15 minutes, we would indeed cancel the closing general session.
Mhm.
Because at that time, there was actually some hope that he had been contained, that he was going to be apprehended. So a few minutes go on, and it's clear that the shooter has departed the scene. In fact, we later learned he stole a car. He found a running
Oh,
car
wow.
open with the key in the ignition. If you
Oh,
can believe that,
no.
right? What are the chances of that?
Wow.
So he finds a running car unlocked and takes off, and he goes further north toward the Galleria area. If the people know
So
Atlanta,
further away from the convention
further
center.
away, right? But of course, it takes a while for us to understand all this is happening and
Right.
what direction he's going in and all that stuff. So we push out the information that the general session is canceled out of an abundance of caution. Then the next big question was, what do we do about the big finale party that it
Mm.
closes out the RISKWORLD
Right.
convention? And it's a big party. It's the fun end. It's the big celebration. It's sponsored by a third party, one of our big
Mm.
sponsors. Everyone looks forward to it. It's a big deal, and we communicated with the sponsor, and it was very quickly they felt it would be inappropriate,
Yeah.
to hold that party, and out of respect to the family of the victims, they felt it would be wise to just
Yeah,
cancel.
no matter what the
Right,
outcome of the day, it
right.
still just seemed wrong.
It just felt wrong,
Yeah.
and then it was hours later until the shooter was apprehended. In fact, it was 8 hours after the
Oh,
shooting
wow.
took place before the person was apprehended. So, that's, in a nutshell, that was, now, in between other things happened. I went up to the ballroom. I made a live announcement to the people that were in the room. I came up again and gave them the information that at the proper point that the lockdown in
Mhm.
Midtown had been released, but we couldn't get to the hotels yet. Please stand by. And then eventually go ahead and, the shuttle buses are now running, go back and get on the shuttles. And at one point, it occurred to me that, we have this ballroom, we have Freeman, and we have CNTV. We're all set up because we were getting
Mhm.
ready to do the closing session. All the equipment, all the lighting, all the cameras are there. So I recorded a message, a video, and off the cuff, and just sort
Mhm.
of to to get in front of the news cycle, to sort of say, here's the current situation, and so we did the recording. They edited it quickly, and we shared that out through the app and through our website. So that actually it really helped get the word out, and and I could say,
Right.
that we're all safe, all that. We just canceled the general session at that point.
So, okay, so there's so many different things to kind of break down from all of this. I think the first thing is it seems like the whole incident seems somewhat ironic since you are the Risk Management Association. I mean, I think you guys were probably more prepared for something, and the fact that you were in Atlanta where they have their own police department at the convention center. So, kind of give us a little bit of backstory. I mean, you don't have to go in a lot of depth, but what kind of things had you done prior to already have a crisis management in place? Because I know of all organizers out there, you guys would be the ones that would have a crisis plan.
Yeah, that's the irony abounds throughout this whole story. So yes, the Risk and Insurance Management Society, as you might think, with a board filled with risk managers who do this for a living, have an extensive 73-page risk and
Wow.
crisis communication plan. We had drilled on it extensively, and in fact, we had sort of gone over and above what I would say would be even normal for RIMS, because that spring there had been some demonstrations in downtown Atlanta about some local issues, number one.
Mhm.
Number two, RISKWORLD, our convention, does attract its share of peaceful protesters. We've never had any issue, but people come to protest different actions by different insurance companies who happen to be our exhibitors
Mm.
and whatnot. Typically, that's not aimed at RIMS or RISKWORLD. It's just about some of
Just
the
because of who
insurance.
happens to be there.
Right. People that
Yeah.
insure, oil and gas, for example.
Mhm.
So people come and protest that. So we had a careful understanding of who those folks were, where they would protest, and all that. And then just as because of the general concern about social violence in the world
Mhm.
today, not in particular relative to Atlanta, but just anywhere.
Right.
So we went really kind of out of our way, and met several times with the GWCC Police Department. We toured their command center. We saw the 700 plus cameras, how they fed into a video monitoring system.
Wow.
We talked about drone interdiction. We talked about what would happen in the event that the cellular telephone service would go out, cell service would go out. In
Mm.
fact, we went and rented walkie-talkies. Now, when's the last time you rented walkie-talkies, right, for your convention? I mean, as a
Going low
youngster,
tech.
right, growing up in this business,
Yeah.
we used to carry walkie-talkies, right? Big,
Oh,
heavy
yeah.
walkie-talkies. And but the advent of other systems meant that I haven't carried a walkie-talkie in, maybe a decade.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
we carried walkie-talkies just in case
Mhm.
cellular went out for some reason. Now, again, irony, because we were coming up to the finish line, getting ready to have the final general session, we turned in the walkie-talkies right
Oh, no.
before all this started,
Of
right?
course.
So there's one of the lessons was, hang on to the
Keep the
walkie-talkie.
walkie-talkies till the very end. Yeah.
Right. Because that would have helped. I mean, again, going back, because, we should communicate with everyone via text and cell phone, but
Mm-hmm.
it would have been slightly quicker if I could just, get on the phone and say, all right, here's what's going on, and communicate via walkie-talkie. But so we did that. In fact, we did tours and security briefings, not just with staff, but with our board, with our vendors. We walked through several times the physical facility. We noted where not only the exits were, but the
Mm-hmm.
defibrillators were, where the fire extinguishers were, where the ambulances would come. You name it. We went so far as to offer all of our staff CPR training. We would
Oh, wow.
compensate and pay for their CPR training. So we did all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, 73-page plan that was reviewed, cut twice with the board and extensively with our team. And at the end of the day, we did what the plan told us to do, which is basically make sure you're safe, ensure, what threat intelligence, what's the threat, what's happening, are we
Exactly.
safe, that sort of thing, and then communicate. And we at Risk World, we were never in any physical danger. The thing that we probably didn't, and I've said this before, that we could have done more planning and thought on, was focusing on more about the general area of the city, as opposed to just focusing on the convention center, the World
The
Congress Center,
campus.
the
Yeah.
campus, right? Because I've been doing this a long time, and mostly you focus on the hotel or hotels, or where you're holding the meeting. You don't really think through incidents in the city, and
Mm-hmm.
under what conditions would that impact your convention. And
Well,
that
and
was one of the things that we have to think about.
So I'm curious, because you've mentioned hotels several times. So, and you said you had 32 hotels?
32
So,
hotels.
so then the communication that went out, I assume you were in constant communication with the hotels as well or did they have their own crisis plans, or how was that
I
coordinated?
don't think we ever communicated with any of the hotels. We did get you have a housing service.
Mm-hmm.
And so we worked with them. One of the first things we did was we got a list of the people in the 4 hotels impacted, and we communicated with them directly.
Oh, smart.
But we never really had time to communicate with the 4 hotels, and they were locked down. So
Yeah.
again, you kind of got to focus on what's out of your control, what is controlled, and what's not controlled. And
So
so
you're thinking that they probably, if they're in the lockdown area, they're already having their own communication within the building and with their own guests. So
right, and they did. I mean, it was like there's an incident nearby, locked down the hotel, and police were everywhere, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah. So it was obvious to those people what was going on.
Right, and soon enough we knew that the shooter was not in that area anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but that one of the big takeaways is, if you have a citywide convention, you have to have a citywide response plan.
True.
Right? It's not just about what happens within the convention center or the hotels. It's about incidents that occur in the city, and having a good idea about where things are in relations to your shuttle bus routes, your offsite events, wherever, and then determining what the triggers are, what are the things that have happened would cause you to do something else. So, for example, this occurred in Atlanta, could have occurred in any city for any size convention, right? But had that shooting occurred 5 miles to the east, would we have closed down the last half day of our convention? Probably not, right? Maybe, I don't know, but it's something for us to think about. If only one person was shot a mile away, would that have impacted the convention? Probably not.
Or if it'd been out in one of the suburbs,
or the suburbs, right? So you do have to have sort of an honest conversation and ask yourself those really hard questions. And,
Mm-hmm.
I happen to live in Chicago, and we'll have our 2025 convention here in Chicago. And unfortunately, people get shot in Chicago, like most major cities. 22
Mm-hmm.
people were shot in one suburb, not in Chicago, but in one suburb just the other day. Had that occurred while I was running a convention here on a day of our convention, would I have shut down the convention? Probably not, because it was 45 minutes away by car, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you have to really think through all the situations that could potentially occur in that city and how it might or might not impact your situation, your conference.
Well, and like you said, it's having that kind of war room where you've got the information coming in, and so you can get that up to date. So if it happened 45 minutes away, but he was headed into downtown, then
Correct.
that would change the perspective immensely.
Correct.
So I think that's something else to keep in mind. So there's so many things we could talk about. I mean, we could go on for hours, but I've got just a couple questions I want to ask you before we wrap up. So how did you handle the communications without creating a sense of panic among your attendees? I mean, you talked about doing the video so you could kind of give them more of a face-to-face message, but how was that whole communications idea framed?
Well, the core team that from my team was myself, Stuart Rufflion, and Josh Salter, director of communications, and so we were together in the response room. And so Josh, who's a trained communications executive, has actually worked in crisis communications before. He's just a very calm person. We carefully, and Josh led the crafting of the messages very carefully, so as not to try to give too much a sense of emotion. We also decided not to do some things. For example, we thought about, should we make an announcement over the public address system? And the people in the room, and we talked about that, and it was like, that is a whole different level of urgency. And it's
If
the
it was
kind of
more
thing,
imminent danger, maybe.
right? And they were saying, we would probably only do that if a tornado was, or some very bad weather thing was happening. That's almost last resort, and it will elicit an emotional response, right?
Mm-hmm.
So instead of doing that, we issued the message on the convention center signage.
Mm-hmm.
We did do a message within the exhibit hall, because they were finishing up the exhibit, and there were hundreds of people, if not thousands of people, in meetings. Lots of our participants come and literally meet in small, rooms they build
Right.
within their convention booths. And so we knew we had to get the word out, because they weren't seeing their phones, they weren't checking their emails.
True.
And so we needed to say, hey, if there's a situation, stay in the exhibit hall, because that's about the safest place to, in Atlanta at that point.
Well, and another way to handle that too is just stationing somebody at the exits that could actually just talk to people and explain, you need
right.
to
And
stay in the
we did
exhibit
it
hall and
staff
things like
around,
that.
but it's a big place.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Lots of exits, but yeah. So another question is, what recommendations do you have? Just a few thoughts for event planners as they're doing their site visits, as they're meeting with the hotels, as they're meeting with the convention center. What are some of the questions or some of the things that they should be asking or thinking about to, like you said, you had done a lot of this beforehand and gotten a lot of the plans in place, but what are some of the things that they should ask?
I'll be better at giving advice, later this summer, where Stuart and I and a few others are actually doing a session at the ASAE annual meeting in Atlanta. It happens to be in Atlanta.
Oh,
again, irony of ironies, a coincidence.
Yeah.
A coincidence. And so we're working on that now. But the first thing is, I would say, if you have a citywide event, you have to have a citywide plan.
Right.
You really have to think through nearby things that could happen nearby within the city, the location, what would impact you or your convention, understand, have a map of where all your off sites are, where
Mm,
everything is,
good
and
point.
have a better understanding of the geography of the place, the
Yeah.
traffic routes in and out,
Smart.
that sort of thing. So that's a key piece. I think the second is to make sure you have a really up to date written plan, but one that is also boiled down so that you can remember it. We had a 73-page plan,
Oh, true. Yeah.
right? Because we wanted to make sure we covered everything, and there was a lot of redundancy. There's a lot of redundancy in that sort of plan, um, and you can't carry it around, even if you digitize it and carry it around in your phone or your iPad or whatever. Being able to find, oh my, what's it's on page 42.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've got to have it in a much more of a responsive kind of format. Number one, and I think the third thing is drill it. I mean, you have to
Mhm.
build muscle memory. The hardest thing for us to do was to execute the communications. We knew once we knew we were safe, we knew we had to get out a message, so we created the message. But to send out the app, we had to talk to person A. To send
Mhm.
out the email message, we had to talk to person B. To send out to execute the digital screening message and the conventions, we had to talk to person C. To do a video, we had to work with D, E, and F. And we had to figure that out all on site, and and we knew what to do, but executing it quickly.
So having that
Um,
checklist of like, in case of emergency, we need to contact this, and this, and knowing who those points of contact are,
right.
so you can get to that really quickly.
And again, being able to do it very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And our plan included a telephone tree, which,
Mhm.
I've been around, we've had telephone trees for forever. They're not the fastest thing. So, we'd send out a text to the staff, and that was
Mhm.
quick, but it took hours for all the staff to respond back
Oh, wow.
because they were busy. They
Yeah.
were helping, right? They were helping
Yeah.
direct traffic. They were helping explain things. And so, because our text was, staff, check in, let us know you're okay.
Yeah.
And not everybody did right away. Uh,
Wow.
so I call it that muscle memory of being able to simplify the plan and know how to get that response, how to implement the response. Maybe even have some messages written. We understand a situation has occurred in blank.
Oh,
Of
yeah,
abundance,
smart.
where we are all safe. Those kinds of things, because we wound up sending 3 or 4 different messages to different groups, including emails to the board and whatnot. But everyone just took time
Well,
to
you
do.
have to think it all through on the spot instead of, like you said, having templates. So that's a great piece of advice. So, Gary,
And
thank you so much. I mean, this is just, it's something that we hope no trade show, no conference ever has to go through. But having all those plans and those templates and checklists and things in place ahead of time. I mean, you guys came through it, like you said, with minimal issues to your conference, other than you had to cancel those last few events. But they were all things that you handled, sounds like, very smoothly throughout the process.
well, thank you. And I would just, to add to the conversation, you think through and you say, all right, luckily, or fortunately, I guess, this occurred in the last few hours of the conference.
Mhm.
What if it had occurred in the first few hours of the conference?
Right.
How would that have affected, the whole event? Under what conditions would we cancel the whole thing?
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
by
I
the
mean, do
way,
you
what's
cancel
our
that
insurance
day, or
coverage
do
for
you
that?
cancel the whole thing? Or yeah, so there are a lot of things to think through.
Right, right. And we've all been through a couple of years where we had to cancel everything, and we know how unpleasant that was, and
Yeah.
the challenges with all of that. So all of those things, I think, uh, inform us that it's a different day, right? We're in a different place in history where we have to expect that something like this, it's not about it might happen. You have to plan that it will happen. because that will sharpen your thinking, that will sharpen your planning, and that will sharpen your ability to execute and implement in the unfortunate event that it happens to you.
Well, Gary, thank you so much for your perspective and your insights on this. I mean, it's just it's priceless, the advice that you can give to other event planners. So I think this is, like I said, it's a conversation that's so very important for every organization to be having right now. And as you said, as we go forward with this very unknown environment that we live in these days. So, Gary, thank you so much for taking time out to share your insights with us today on Trade Show Insights. We appreciate it very much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. Stay well.
If you enjoyed today's episode and would like more, you can subscribe to the Trade Show Insights podcast and automatically receive future episodes on your chosen device. Simply search for Trade Show Insights in Apple, Spotify, or virtually anywhere else that podcasts are found, then click the subscribe button. Trade Show Insights is protected by the Creative Commons copyright license. You may feel free to share this recording with colleagues or embed it on your own blog as long as it's shared in its entirety and is not used for commercial purposes. To learn more, please see the link in the sidebar of the show notes at tradeshowinsights.com. Well, that's it for this episode of Trade Show Insights. Be sure to check out our show notes and archives at tradeshowinsights.com. You can also connect with me using the social media links or the contact page on the site. I'm Marlis Arnold. Thanks for listening, and be sure to join us next time for more tools to improve your exhibit results.